Hello again and welcome back. This is very much not a workshop video. This video as you can see is shot very much in my lounge, and it's a little bit of a autobiographical video. I've not got anything to repair. In fact, my slogan this week, which is the 1st of May and the way into the third lockdown, could be lots of broken things but nothing to fix, and I think that about sums it up. I'll show you a photo of my empty workshop in a few minutes, but here I am, and I decided it would be a good idea to take this opportunity to indulge myself rather than equipment and other people. So that's what I'm doing in this video. I haven't made a music video for a long time, and I've made baking videos and engineering type repair videos, but I haven't made a music video for a while, and I thought it might be nice just to share with you some of my favorite music. And obviously the limitation with YouTube is that you can't play any of it, so sometimes I resort to Bluetooth headphones and a silent record going around, but I'd like to share with you some of my favorite LPs and some of my collection. Now, to whose advantage this is going to be, I have no idea, but I just want to do a little bit of editing and put another video up for the 1st of May, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I have 4 principal best loved musicians, and first and foremost it must be Leonard Cohen, and it's ironic that on the day that he died, his last LP was published, or the day before, somewhere around there, You Want It Darker, and I actually purchased it then. So that's a very special one. I've got lots of his music, and next, I suppose in line, has to be David Bowie, and again on his death, You Want It, or Black Star, which is the one you saw on the turntable a few moments ago, was playing. Then we're into stuff, well, obviously the Beatles. We've got every one of their LPs, going from the early mono versions of their first releases, so that's quite good. And then Bob Dylan, of course, and his latest one, Rough and Rowdy Ways, which was excellent, and Rolling Stones. And then I've got some oddities. They're not ones I've got a lot of, and I've recently acquired the Kinks, which is the We Are the Village Preservation Society, which was quite difficult to get hold of, but it's a very good LP. It was derided when it first came out by the critics, but now it's got somewhat better recognised. So what I'm going to do in this next bit is just to show you some of the sleeve covers I've got, and then at the end of that little bit I'll share with you a book that I'm reading. Let me have another slurp of tea, excuse me, which is John Fowles' the Magus, and then the other stuff that I'm into at the moment, which is Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace. I've made a previous video on those, but I've just been digging out some of my books on them. This is a cartoon depiction of it by Sydney Powdew, and she's a very brilliant cartoonist, and calculating engines by Charles Babbage. But I'll end up with a bit of a rarity. I've talked about it before, and I've just mentioned it, John Fowles and the Magus, and there's something really special about this book that I'll share with you at the end of the video. But first of all, let's have a look at some of my record sleeves. Starting with Leonard Cohen, my favourite artist. He not only was a brilliant songwriter and singer, but also he was an accomplished poet. Loved his records, and this is only a small example of my collection. Great to listen to at any time, very consoling, very reassuring. His later records were very autobiographical, including Popular Problems and Old Ideas, and his last record I bought on the day of his death, which was You Want It Darker. Next in my collection is David Bowie, whose influence in music was probably greater than any other 20th century artist. I've got a large collection of his music, singles and LPs, and this is just a small selection. Again, like Cohen, I sadly bought his last album on the day of his death. Third in line is the Beatles, and what music collection would be complete without a selection of their music? Started buying their records when they were first published, and that was many years ago, obviously, and my early ones are all in mono, but I've continued collecting them up to their last issued LP. Great music, great covers, very inspirational, and a great influence on all 20th century music. Just such an iconic band, especially Sgt. Pepper, and the video of Yellow Submarine is brilliant to watch. Abbey Road, in fact all their LPs, different, unique and very special. Next up is the Rolling Stones, an amazingly influential band again. I've got most of their LPs, but certainly not all of them. This is just an example showing some of the covers I've got. The last LP, Blue and Lonesome, had lots of covers on it, that was released in 2016, and it's a great rock and roll LP with lots of brilliant covers. So that's just an example of the Rolling Stones, Blue and Lonesome. The last artist I'm going to feature is Bob Dylan. He had a huge influence on my early musical tastes. Used to listen to his singles on jukeboxes and loved his music. Still love it, and got a big collection of his LPs. This is just a small example. I bought his latest LP, Rough and Rowdy Ways, recently, and that's just an amazing LP to listen to. So there we go. That's Bob Dylan. Well, that's just a little look through some of my favourite collections of LP, but there are one or two ones that don't actually make up a collection of vinyl, if you like, and I just have them as my must-be-have LPs. Obviously, that's got to be there, Led Zeppelin, and that one has to be in the collection. Also Stevie Wonder, and I bought this one recently, which is the Songs in the Key of Life, which is an excellent example of Stevie Wonder's work and some of his lovely music that he's written. One of my early records I bought many years ago when I could scarcely afford to buy vinyl. I bought this in a large department store. Remember department stores? Well, I bought this in a large department store, and it's the Bee Gees, and it's Odessa, and I still love that record. It's in actually a velvet case, and I've kept that one, and I love that era of Bee Gees music. It was really good. Obviously, a got to have is Paul Simon and Graceland. That has got to be, well, it's in my collection, and I think it ought to be in most people's collection. And then, of course, Carole King and Tapestry. It's one that I love to listen to, and it's a really nice, lovely LP. Don McLean, American Pie. Yes, it has to be in my collection, and that's a brilliant record to have and to own. Early days when I was many years ago, Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, is another essential key in my collection. And lastly, but by no means least, this rather tattered box, which is All Things Must Pass. All Things Must Fall at the bottom. All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And that's a brilliant record set, and brings back lots of memories. There are lots of other ones as well, but I don't have really time to go through in this video. But I hope you've enjoyed what I've showed you, and that's about it for the records. But I'd like to pass on now to my books. I did mention the Babbage books, but I'm not going to mention those again. But about 40 years ago, maybe a bit more than that, I was in Marbella on holiday, and I remember reading this book then, the Magus, by John Fowles. Now, the Magus, obviously taken from Magi and sinister men, that is the title. And this book is a very surrealistic book about a school teacher on an island in Greece, and his encounters with the supernatural and the real world, and the juxtaposition between the two, as well his past loves. And it's an amazing book. But what's amazing about this, I found it at the back of a bookshelf. Do you often have books in the front of bookshelves, and then suddenly you push them to the back, and then you put some newer ones in the front and you forget about them? Well, I was turning out the back of my bookshelves. I think there ought to be something written about the back of bookshelves. And I opened it up, and out fell a bookmark that I used when I was reading the book over 40 years ago. And the bookmark was a picture of me. I'll give you a close-up in a minute. I am wearing a costume, I promise you, reading this exact same book. Now, how about that for a coincidence? And I'm under a tree in the sun, looking much younger, obviously much slimmer, and much more innocent of life, and reading the Magus by John Fowles. And I've now got that as a bookmark again. I think that is, it was quite remarkable. I even forgot about the photo, so that's in there. Really, that's about it. Very self-indulgent video. Hope you've enjoyed it, but I hope the next video will be me in my workshop again, with something to repair. I'm sure when this lockdown eventually comes to an end, there'll be lots of stuff out there that people want me to look at. In the end, in the meantime, I may just start hunting under the bench for things that have been abandoned. But thank you for watching, and thank you to all my subscribers, and to all those people who view my videos. Hopefully the rest of the lockdown will pass without too much more incident, and I will just take this opportunity to say thank you again to everybody. I'll be back with you soon. I like to make a couple of videos a month, and in the meantime, as always, take care.